The invisible network moving trillions each night. While the city sleeps, the real work begins. Trillions shift places without anyone seeing a single coin. And if that network ever stops, the world wakes up to chaos. To understand the invisible network moving trillions each night, we have to look at the side of finance that never appears in movies. Not the trading floors, not the dramatic crashes. The quiet machinery that makes modern money feel effortless. The part that turns daily life into a smooth routine. Because every time you tap a card, send a payment, or check a balance, you are trusting a system that must work perfectly in the background. And London is one of the places where that background system becomes real. The world runs on obligations. Every transaction creates a promise. A bank promises to pay another bank. A company promises to deliver funds. A clearing system promises to finalize trades. These promises stack up all day, across markets and time zones, until the numbers become too large to imagine. Then night comes, and the system begins to settle. The first beat of this story begins with the idea of netting. Instead of paying every obligation one by one, the network compresses them. It calculates what each institution owes and what is owed. It reduces chaos into final balances. What looks like trillions in activity becomes a smaller set of final movements that keep the system from drowning. This is how the world survives its own volume. The second beat arrives with timing. Global finance never truly closes, but it does shift. As one market quiets, another wakes. London sits in the middle of this relay, bridging regions and time zones. It becomes one of the places where global obligations can be processed, cleared, and prepared for the next wave. And then the third beat begins to form. The network becomes invisible, because when something works every day, people stop noticing it. It becomes like electricity. You only think about it when it fails. The invisible network moving trillions each night is designed to be boring. It is designed to be reliable. It is designed to keep money flowing so smoothly that society forgets the complexity beneath it. But that invisibility creates a dangerous illusion. That money is simple. That transactions are instant. That the system is automatic. In reality, the network is a living structure of rules, collateral, trust, and constant coordination. It is held together by procedures that must be followed precisely. And when those procedures are stressed, the entire world can feel it. Because if the network fails, it doesn't just affect traders. It affects life. And that's when the story starts to turn. Because the invisible network isn't powered by money. It's powered by trust. Every night, the system has to answer a brutal question. Can every institution involved still pay what it owes? If the answer is yes, the machine clears and settles quietly. If the answer is uncertain, the machine becomes tense. It demands more collateral. It slows. It tightens. It begins to behave like a body under stress. This is where the reveal becomes clearer. The network moving trillions each night is not one network. It is layers. Payment systems, settlement systems, clearing systems, collateral management, liquidity lines. Each layer depends on the others. An entire structure relies on coordination that most people will never see. London plays a key role because it sits inside multiple layers at once. It is a hub for global currency flows, a center for clearing and settlement, a place where institutions from around the world connect to each other through standardized procedures. And those procedures are strict, because strictness creates predictability. The first beat of the deeper reveal is settlement risk. During the day, trades happen instantly, but settlement often happens later. That gap creates exposure. If one side fails before settlement, the other side can be left holding loss. The network exists to reduce that gap, to manage it, to make sure promises become final without turning into disasters. Then the second beat arrives. Collateral becomes a language of trust. The network doesn't rely on good intentions. It relies on proof. Institutions must post collateral to guarantee their obligations. That collateral is constantly valued, revalued, and demanded in real time. If prices move, collateral requirements shift. If markets panic, collateral calls rise. And when collateral calls rise, the system can tighten like a fist. The third beat is where tension begins. Liquidity. Even strong institutions can fail, if they cannot access cash at the right moment. The invisible network is designed to keep liquidity moving, but in stress, liquidity becomes scarce. Banks become cautious. Funding costs rise. Institutions hoard cash. And the network starts to feel fragile. This is the early conflict forming, because the network is built to process trillions, but it is also built on a delicate assumption that trust will hold overnight, that counterparties will remain solvent, that the collateral posted today will still be valuable tomorrow. Most nights, that assumption is correct, but when it isn't, the system begins to reveal its true nature. It doesn't collapse with drama, it collapses with hesitation. Payments delayed, settlements questioned, counterparties scrutinized, and when the invisible network hesitates, the visible world feels it quickly. Markets become volatile. Businesses struggle to finance operations. Governments step in. The public hears vague language about liquidity events and temporary stress. But underneath those phrases is the same reality. The network is fighting to keep trust alive. And London, sitting at the center of global finance, becomes one of the places where that fight is most intense. Because when trillions move at night, one failure is never just one failure. It is a signal that the machine may not be as stable as everyone assumes. And once a signal appears, the entire system becomes hypersensitive, because the invisible network moving trillions each night is built like a chain, strong, efficient, and reliable when every link holds. But when one link weakens, every other link starts checking its own strength. That's how panic begins in modern finance. Not with shouting, with recalculation. London's role in this network means it often feels the recalculation first. Institutions in the city are connected to global flows of currency, derivatives, and funding. They see the shifts in collateral demands. They feel the tightening in overnight markets. They watch spreads widen in places the public never hears about. And the conflict grows because the system has no patience. Nightly settlement doesn't wait for political debates. It doesn't pause for human emotion. It runs on deadline procedures and automatic triggers. When stress rises, the system reacts instantly, forcing institutions to respond just as quickly. That speed is what makes the network both powerful and dangerous, because speed removes time for judgment. If collateral values fall, margin calls rise. If margin calls rise, assets are sold. If assets are sold, prices fall further, and the loop accelerates. This is how a small problem becomes a systemic event. The invisible network is supposed to reduce risk through netting and clearing, but under stress, those same mechanisms can amplify pressure. A clearinghouse raises margin requirements to protect itself, which forces institutions to find more collateral. Finding more collateral often means selling assets. Selling assets pushes prices down, which triggers more margin calls. The machine tightens itself, and London, sitting at the center, becomes the pressure chamber. This is where the emotional buildup reaches its peak, because the network is not just moving money, it is moving survival. For banks, survival means staying liquid. For companies, survival means paying suppliers and staff. For governments, survival means keeping markets calm. For households, survival means the stability of jobs, savings, and prices. All of that depends on a network most people never see. And the network does not care if people understand it. It only cares if obligations are met. The deeper truth is that the system's stability is partly an illusion created by repetition. Because it works every night, the world assumes it will always work. The invisible becomes assumed, and the assumed becomes unquestioned. But the network is not guaranteed. It is maintained. Maintained through collateral, liquidity, and confidence. Maintained through institutions willing to keep lending. Maintained through central banks ready to intervene when the machine begins to choke. And that maintenance creates another paradox. The network is stable because it is constantly being protected, which means the stability is conditional. It depends on support being available. It depends on intervention being possible. It depends on the belief that someone will step in if the system begins to fail. And when that belief weakens, the network becomes fragile. This is the edge of the emotional peak. The realization that trillions move each night not because money is easy, but because the system is constantly fighting gravity. constantly balancing risk, constantly managing fear. London's invisible network is one of the reasons the modern world feels smooth. But it is also a reminder, behind every instant transaction is a fragile chain of trust. And trust can break. That's the climax. Every night, trillions move because the world believes they can, because the system is designed to turn promises into reality, and because London is one of the places where that belief becomes operational. The invisible network doesn't look dramatic, but it is a foundation of modern life. It clears obligations. It settles trades. It keeps liquidity moving. It prevents the global economy from collapsing under the weight of its own complexity. And the terrifying truth is this: most people will only notice it when it fails. Because when the network stops, payments freeze, businesses stall, markets panic, confidence collapses, the world suddenly remembers that money is not just a number on a screen. It is a chain of trust. So the resolution is awareness. The next time you hear about overnight funding stress, sudden volatility, or emergency liquidity support, you will know what's really happening. The invisible network is tightening. The machine is demanding proof. The system is fighting to keep its promises alive. And that's why this matters today. Finance is becoming faster, more automated, and more interconnected. The nightly network is carrying more weight than ever before. And the more weight it carries, the more fragile it becomes if trust weakens even slightly. London's role in this network is not just a story about one city. It's a story about how the world survives its own speed. So, what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again? The invisible